Let's call the meeting to order and take roll.
Jimenez,
Present.
Teme,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Cohen.
Here, since Davis is absent, we can do online voting for the voting items. Okay. So we're going to start with the review of the April 18th agenda. All right, for April 18th, we have a 9:30 closed session, 1:30 open session, and no evening session. Pages 6 and 7 and 8 are consent. 9 items on consent. On page 9, we have graffiti abatement service report and section 5.1, another street resurfacing contract. Page 10, pre-development agreement for the airport connector. And then section 7, we have neighborhood commission report and urban confluence update and no land use next week. There is an ad sheet, so the maker of the motion should include that, and we'll go to public comment.
Peter,
Peter?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'm a real estate broker and I'm against COPA based on my
Peter,
system.
that's
Yes.
Peter, that's gonna be the next item. That's the April 25th agenda.
April
we'll-
20,
It's the
25th?
April 25th agenda. Yeah, we'll call you when we get to the next item.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, Paul?
Hey, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Urban Confluence, we're gonna have the felon statue removed in a few weeks. That's going to cause, a kind of a break in the cohesiveness of the city. There's gonna be this side and that side. What happened there was just, it needed to happen. Publicly, it wasn't stated clearly what the actual reasons were historically. And I was disappointed about that. But nonetheless, it's going to be removed in that is just that it be removed. It shouldn't be reflected in the character of the city, something that is associated with decapitation and Peter Burnett and all the other cast of characters that comprise California history. With that said, the first place where the felon statue was going to be placed was there at Cesar Chavez Park. And so there was issues not only with what it represented, but the fact that it was going to be placed there at the park. And I just don't want to see the statue be removed and then this cause even more dissension with the city, because there's never like a point of like healing for the city, because something like this itself gets introduced into the mix and it constantly keeps the city divided constantly. And so it's in that vein that I'm making this request, because not a whole lot of people go to these meetings. Once the public discovers that like really going to actually try to move on that the city is facilitating that, then like I said, there's never a point to healing for the city is what I wanted to share. Thanks.
Blair Beekman,
Hi, Blair Beekman. I wanted to comment on item 2.7 that will be on the agenda. That is about a continuance of sea level an extension of the proclamation of existence of local emergency by 60 days for the threat of high water flows and flooding remaining in San Jose. Is this related to sea level rise issues? And I mean, if it is, it's a subject that I know you guys are aware of, you talk about internally, but it's a subject that it isn't like regular open public comment. And I really wish it can be, or I mean, I don't want to be overdoing it, but just that it can be really just a kind of a regular part of our process. We keep it kind of hidden. We don't want to talk about it. And I really wish we can make it an open subject matter and that we can address the future of, real estate development in District 4 and 5, District 4 and 3 and 1, I guess, those things can still take place. We can still talk about those things. We just have to learn that balance. And I good luck to yourselves with these sort of issues and a real serious sea level rise issues that are happening that we just need to politely talk about. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, do we have a motion
Move approval
with the ad sheet?
with the ad sheet.
Thank you. All right, we'll vote on that. All right, motion carries 4-0. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the agenda for April 25th.
Before we start, this is the time for those people who are online to raise your hand if you wanted to talk about the COPA issue.
Thank you. Again, a 9:30 closed session, 1:30 open session, and no evening session scheduled. So on starting on page 6, we have our consent calendar. There are 12 items scheduled for consent. Page 6, 7, and 8. There's nothing in sections 3 and 4 and section 5. On page 9, we have Regional Active Transportation Program grant and another street resurfacing contract. Page 10, section 6.1 and 2, construction contract for wastewater facility and also for the dewatering facility at the wastewater plant. And then on page 11, section 8, acquisition of property on McAvoy Street, annual action plan for housing and urban development. Page 12, the COPA proposal and city-led engagement process for Pleasant Hills Golf Course, and no land use. So let's, before we go to public comment, I'll let Councilmember Ortiz comment on his memo that's also part of this item, and then we'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to my colleagues on the Rules Committee for the opportunity to join you all today. I share my deepest gratitude to the staff at the Housing Department for moving COPA to where it is today. I also want to recognize the members of the community who are here today speaking in support of actions to defend their families and their community members. Thank you for being willing to share your stories and just talk about how critical it is for anti-displacement and preservation policies for our community. Now, after a 2-year and a multitude of technical and community advisory work, a plethora of feedback and comments and multiple community workshops, 2 major themes continued to be heard from what my perspective and the perspectives of the community interpreted. And one is that preservation efforts need to be furthered here in the city of San Jose. And the other is that there may need to be more work done by the city and its partners to find the most appropriate set of solutions to achieve that goal. For that reason, I put forth this memo recommending that the city indefinitely defer COPA ahead of the April 25th City Council meeting that will provide time for city staff to identify and scale broader preservation strategies. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Ortiz. Now we'll go to public comment on this item.
We'll go ahead and,
Just to be clear, public comment is on anything on the April 25th agenda, which includes COPA, but may also be about other items on that agenda.
We'll go ahead and start with the in-person public commenters. As I call your names, please go ahead and start lining up to the podium. And when you get to the mic, please go ahead and say your name. So we'll start with Gabrielle, Oscar, Olivia, Maria, and Jeremy.
These things are always too tall. How you doing? Gabriel Hernandez with the Si Se Puede Collective. Want to thank Councilmember Ortiz for the memo, and I'm asking that the committee chair and the committee defer the COPA item. I think when I heard the conversations at Councilmember Foley's committee around, how it's being construed, how it's being talked about, whether we should tax Measure E, and it seems very confused, especially for the newer council members. I would like that opportunity, and the community would like that opportunity to have those discussions with you. I think we're not confused about power and money. We're asking for Elaine to be able to participate in the real estate industry, and clearly there's pushback on that, and that's fine. But again, when we begin to talk about racial, social, and economic equity and these types of things, again, it's these types of meetings and these types of votes that lay out those kind of parameters, and we'll be humbled sometimes by those. And so I'm asking that you defer the COPA item so that we can have those conversations with the new council members. I'd love to have conversations. I think even you, Councilmember Foley, talked about a list of things that you have around COPA. And I want to know those answers that the housing department has responded back, because I don't think it's a very difficult process. It's a lane for poor people to have, people talking about housing as if, affordable housing's the same as making money off of real estate. And it's two different worlds. The funding that we're talking about and that we're trying to acquire. And then even this whole craziness around nonprofits, RCD and the number of those developers are nonprofits, and they're very good, and they've built some beautiful buildings in the city. And so I would just like that opportunity for us to
Thank you. Next
continue that
speaker.
conversation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Ortiz. I live in District 5. We urge you to support Councilmember Peter Ortiz memo requesting a defer of COPA ahead of the April 25th City Council agenda. San Jose has made strides in many areas, but lacks the preservation ecosystem, center and policies and programs aimed of acquiring and rehabilitating sources of pre-existing housing stocks. Council members have spoke about new construction over preservation, yet ignore the high cost of new construction and the environmental impact. Council members have expressed that as newly elected officials, they require more time to learn more about affordable housing, anti-displacement, and preservation, of which COPA is a key strategy. We should postpone the vote to grant the council enough time to become familiar with the policy so that they can make a more informed decision. In order for anti-displacement strategy to truly flourish, intentional steps must be taken to ensure that we as a city are building our out of preservation infrastructure. In the middle of a historic housing crisis, shortage, and homelessness crisis, San Jose cannot ignore the call to explore the steps necessary to build a robust preservation strategy for our most impacted community. We urge you to support Council Member Peter Ortiz memo. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and rest of the members of the Rules Committee. My name is Jeremy Barus. I'm the Director of Policy and Organizing with Amigos de Guadalupe Center for Justice and Empowerment, and also a proud resident of District 8. I would like to urge the committee to support Councilmember Ortiz's memo requesting a deferral of COPA ahead of the April 25th City Council meeting. A few years ago, the council took a huge step in initiating its vision for addressing displacement in our city, and now we need to see that vision to completion. As Olivia, the speaker before me, mentioned, newly elected council members have expressed that they require more time to learn more about affordable housing, anti-displacement, and preservation, of which COPA is a key strategy. Therefore, we should postpone the vote to grant the council enough time to become familiar with the policy so that they can make a more informed decision. In order for anti-displacement strategies to truly flourish, intentional steps must be taken to ensure that we as a city are building out a preservation infrastructure. As we are in the middle of a historic housing shortage and homelessness crisis, San Jose cannot ignore the call to explore the steps necessary to build a robust preservation strategy for our most impacted communities. For this, I urge you to support Councilmember Ortiz's memo to defer the discussion of the COPA policy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Guerrero. I am a resident of District 6. I have been working with the community for a very long time, and I would like to urge you guys to accept Peter Ortiz's memo. You have heard from multiple community, and it seems like there is still some confusion about how this would help and benefit your community. And I urge you to help us take that time so that we can all understand how this would help this preservation of your community and help us stay here in San Jose. Thank you.
Did you fill out a speaker card? Is there a fifth speaker?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I
sorry.
didn't- yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Oscar. I live in District 10. Do your job. You had enough time to look at the COPA forum, to look at the research online that the city council this housing authority actually has, and yet you can't, it takes more time and you just want to kill this policy. You have the time, your job is to research, to learn, yet I haven't seen you at the COPA forums. And now we're debating a real estate interest, deciding that this policy is going to get killed while folks in the community are being displaced, while families are working 2 to 3 jobs to pay the rent, while these real estate interests are controlling our city council. And you have the audacity to come and tell us, oh, we need enough time to research. What were you doing for this whole time? Really? There's community members going to these council meetings, asking questions, trying to work with the housing authority to understand what this policy actually does to support, and there's always but really in this whole process. My tax dollars are not paying your income to just side with the private interest while there's families outside being displaced, while all of you just meet with real estate folks, and that's your main interest. Let's be honest about it. There's community members have been working on this for about 3 years. And every time we get kicked down the can, oh, we don't have time. It's not the right time. When is the right time? The housing crisis is now, and yet we're still having this conversation 3 years later while there's folks still being displaced. Well, I'm sure all of you are living comfortably. And so the reality is that we need to delay COPA. The reality is that we need to accept Peter Ortiz's memo to give y'all enough time to do the work that you should have been doing when you first started this process. Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the virtual public commenters, starting with Sandra, followed by Huascar.
Thank you very much for your time. We shouldn't delay. We've studied for years. We've had public comment for years. We can't go back and stop things every time the council changes. The council has the time, access to the staff, can hear the comments. It should be moved forward and a vote taken and a decision made. If we want to do some more work on displacement, let's find something that really handles displacement. There were numerous comments made in the public meetings that indicated that this probably will not or does not solve the problem. It produces no housing. So please move it forward. Let's get this decision decided so we don't spend more time on it. And it's interesting that people are talking delaying it when I understand from what Councilman Ortiz says is he wants to postpone it indefinitely. Let's get a vote, get it done, make a decision, and then move forward. Thank you.
Huáscar.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Huáscar Castro, Director of Housing and Transportation Justice at Working Partnerships USA. We are standing alongside our coalition partners to express our support for Councilmember Ortiz's memo so that our city can take more time to look into preservation opportunities at a deeper level. Preservation is a major pillar in housing solutions, and preservation goes beyond one policy. There's a real need to work on a growing pool of nonprofits equipped to preserve and acquire property so that there are more opportunities for permanently affordable homes and stable communities. Through robust and intentional outreach with stakeholders, community, and other agencies, there should be a clearer path on how to build out San Jose's preservation infrastructure at the scale needed to reverse many displacement trends. Residents of the city deserve the opportunity to live in a safe, stable, and affordable home. Through preserving existing sources of affordable housing, we can reach those goals. We strongly urge this committee to move forward with the deferral of COPA as recommended by Councilmember Ortiz, and that we as a city prioritize further exploration around preservation and other solutions towards addressing displacement. Thank you very much.
Going back to in-person, Vicente.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Vicenta Mayoral y vengo aquí a apoyar que ustedes como...
Señora, usted puede esperar un momentito porque necesitamos a alguien que traduzca su información.
I have Armando or Jordy. Can you guys please, whoever's active right now, can you translate back for her?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Señora, si usted habla unas frases, entonces después, si pudiera dar pausa, la persona que va a traducir en inglés.
Ok.
Ok, muchísimas gracias. Puede empezar de nuevo.
Ok, mi nombre es Vicenta Mayoral López. Vengo aquí a pedirles que, por favor, apoyen a COPA y que se informen más de lo que se está hablando para poder ayudar a nuestra comunidad. Los miembros del consejo han expresado que... Ay, perdón. Como funcionarios recién elegidos necesitan tiempo para aprender más sobre vivienda asequible. Y antidesplazamiento y preservación de los cuales COPA es una estrategia clave. Deberíamos posponer la votación para otorgarle al Consejo suficiente tiempo para familiarizarse. Con la póliza para que puedan tomar una decisión más formada de lo que nosotros estamos buscando que ustedes aprueben. Gracias. Sandy.
Hi, my name is Sandy Perry. I'm a board member of South Bay Community Land Trust. I'm also president of the Affordable Housing Network of Santa Clara County. And I'd like to echo the other speakers asking for a postponement of this issue so that we can have time to educate the council on the benefits of not only COPA, but preservation in general. Preservation is one of the 3 Ps Just about every housing organization in the state, if not the entire country, advocates a 3Ps approach to solving the housing crisis. And San Jose simply can't afford to not go forward on the question of preservation in particular, because in the past, we don't have an effective preservation sector here in San Jose. What we need is we need to build up what's called an infrastructure, which includes not only community development corporations, community land trusts, other nonprofit developers, but also partnerships with financiers, financing agencies, and with the city to press this forward. We do have a housing and homelessness crisis in the city, and we're not going to solve it if we don't. Now it's getting kind of popular to think that we can approach the homelessness crisis without approaching the issue of permanent affordability, and that simply cannot be done. If we don't address the permanent affordability, we're not going to really solve the housing crisis. We can't make people disappear when they lose their homes. And preservation and policies like COPA are an opportunity to address it directly. Thank you very much.
Back to our virtual speakers, Gustavo, followed by Dan. Gustavo Flores, followed by Dan.
Yes, hello, my name is Gustavo Flores. I live on District 5. I've been living in San Jose for more than 33 years. The reason of my participation today is to support, and please ask you to support Peter Ortiz memorandum. The reason is because we believe the city council members need more time to learn more about housing, displacement, and preservation, in which COPA can be a lot of help. I think we all know we live in a crisis in San Jose. This is a critical crisis because we live it. So it's many people without house and many people displaced in San Jose. I've already been displaced in the city. So please, we need you to please help us and support Peter Ortiz memorandum. Thank you very much.
Dan?
Hi, my name is Dan. COPA definitely is a bad policy. It will harm housing providers, homeowners, and renters as a whole in San Jose, and it will eventually crash housing market in San Jose. During the discussing about the COPA for more than 2 years, people gave numerous reasons and comments why San Jose does not need COPA. It's time for City Council to take the lead and make decisions how to move forward. No need to indefinitely defer COPA. A lot of people said they need more time. We don't understand how many more times you need. Several years. You know, San Jose has a lot of issues. Our leaders need a time and effort to focus on the issues that can really solve the problem. Definitely COPA is not the answer. Please don't waste your time and effort on COPA. Please move forward on April 24th to vote on COPA. Thank you.
Back to in person, Tao?
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Tao. I'm a resident of D4, and I'm also a staff member of the South Bay Community Land Trust. Over the past few months, I've met with many of your offices and your staff members, and we've been hearing a lot that the council, as newly elected officials, need more time to understand preservation and the 3Ps overall. So I really request that to accept the memorandum from Councilmember Ortiz and defer the COPA vote to give these the newly elected officials more time to consider preservation as a really important element in dealing with the affordable housing crisis. Thank you.
Going back to virtual, Gustavo, followed by Peter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, everybody. My name is Gustavo Gonzalez. I was born in San Jose. I rose a family in San Jose and I built a business in San Jose. So that being said, let me start off by saying this whole thing about preservation is a myth. Why is it a myth? Because these properties that the QNPs are buying are low income housing already today. They're what we call Class C buildings in San Jose. And these Class C buildings are located in areas where they are primarily low-income housing. And these properties are also under rent control, which means that the most that somebody can raise rents is 5%. I'm going to give you me as an example. I own a 6-unit. My average rents are $1,500, $1,500. The most that I can raise my rents is $75, you guys. That's the 5%. That's going to be affordable housing for the rest of the life because that's just the way it is. So whether you have a mom and pop like me owning it or a QMP, it's going to be low income. So you're not preserving anything when you buy those buildings. But the most important thing that I'm upset about the most is the fact that this COPA program does not add not one affordable housing unit or 1 unit, period. And that's what we need to make things better for everybody. We need more housing. That's the way we're going to get out of this disastrous mess. So let's just be clear about that. I have been at all of these meetings. I've listened to the QNPs. I haven't heard one QNP say I need more time to buy an apartment building, which is what COPA does. It gives more time. So why are we even doing this? I don't understand. Last but not least, if you took $5 million to buy a building, divided it by 1,500, that would be $3,300.
Peter, followed by Andrea.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a real estate broker. I'm against COPA based on my 30 years experience making a living selling houses. First, in my 30 years of work, I have helped many tenants become homeowners, and I have never seen any willing and ready buyers discriminated because they are tenants. Second, COPA will actually hurt tenants it claims to help, as the majority of the tenants will buy residents which are not the one they occupy. If COPA is the rule, tenants will have to unfairly compete against tax-funded nonprofits, which are armed with other people's money and the first right of refusal, making it even more difficult for tenants to become homeowners. In conclusion, COPA adds more red tape, more expenses, and more time in an otherwise fair and transparent process. COPA will create a fertile ground for extortion, and it will hurt tenants it claims to help. Please vote to reject COPA once and for all. Thank you for listening.
Andrea, followed by Mary Helen.
Hello, my name is Andrea Portillo, and I live in District 7. I am the Organizing and Policy Director with Somos Mayfair. I'm here to urge you to support Councilmember Peter Ortiz's memo requesting a deferral for COPA ahead of the April 25th City Council agenda. We have been working to advance anti-displacement strategies and policies for years, and the housing crisis is a very complex issue. We therefore need a holistic, multi-pronged approach to address the issue in both the short term and the long term. Yes, that includes production of new affordable housing. Yes, that includes the protection of tenants. And yes, that includes preservation of existing affordable housing. Rehabbing an existing affordable apartment can cost 1/3 to 1/2 less than building a new apartment. Preservation via acquisition provides a now solution that prevents displacement and addresses an urgent need. Preservation proactively prevents displacement and promotes community stability. And where cooperatives, community development corporations, and community land trusts are involved, it also promotes community control and pathways to ownership. Preservation also offers continuity to existing tenants, whereas new production takes years to develop. Studies have pointed out that the most immediate driving force behind displacement is not just the lack of new construction, but rather the process where unsubsidized units that were once affordable become unaffordable due to rent increases. The city of San Jose is the only major city in the Bay Area that does not have a comprehensive preservation strategy. We are not building enough affordable housing to meet the need, and we are losing unsubsidized affordable housing. We need a comprehensive strategy, and we need to build a preservation ecosystem that addresses the needs of our most impacted communities. In order to do this, we need everybody to be well-informed and knowledgeable about preservation and not continue to use talking points and misinformation that is spewed by special interests. We really urge you to support Councilmember Peter Ortiz's memo. Thank you.
Mary Helen, followed by Blair.
I'm Mary Helen Doherty, resident of District 3 and a member of Sacred Heart Housing Action Committee. We urge your support of Councilmember Ortiz's memo requesting the deferral of your consideration of COPA. San Jose residents, and in particular our low-income family and children and families of color, desperately need multiple innovative solutions that increase our number of affordable units, effectively utilizing the 3 Ps of production, protection, and preservation. Preserving pre-existing affordable housing stock is a key policy that prevents displacement and promotes community stability. We believe COPA is a key effective prevention strategy to include in our city's affordable housing preservation infrastructure. Your support to allow additional time to explore its benefits is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Blair, followed by Norma.
Hi, Blair Beekman. It's really nice to hear so many people speak at Rules and Open Government on the council agenda next week or 2 weeks from now. Thank you. It's nice to hear. I wanted to speak on items 2.12 of the upcoming agenda, which is Santa Clara County Medical Center provision for sexual assault forensic exam services for the San Jose Police Department. That's an item where actually the peer review program that came into existence after the George Floyd things, that's where it kind of ended up landing, is working on domestic violence issues. And with the medical department and the San Jose Police and domestic violence, it was a good idea. It is a good idea. Can we talk about, with the recent SJPOA things, to possibly reintroduce a more straightforward peer review program for the SJPD that I think really needs it at this time? We really need to consider how our police have to have a very open channel of communication and therapy and healing that can address a lot of issues and help in a lot of ways that I hope we're now more wanting to look into at this time. Good luck in those efforts to consider it. And to weigh in on the TOPA issues a bit, I'm a total beginner about these things, not very knowledgeable, but I'm very hopeful in what TOPA can do. And it sounds like our break time right now is to really gather in its potential for our future. And we're scared of that potential right now. I think we have the way to develop something really important and meaningful. And I hope things like generational passing on things can be explained well, because that's the way you grow the whole process overall. Good luck in overall explanations to each other very clearly. We can do it, I think. Good luck in our efforts.
Norma, followed by Anil. Norma.
¿Sí me escuchan? Sí. ¿Aló? ¿Me escucha? Ok, bueno, mi nombre es Norma Chávez, vivo en el Distrito 5. Le pido con urgencia que apoyemos el memorial del concejal Peter Ortiz, que solicita un aplazamiento de COPA ante la agenda del concejal municipal del 25 de abril. Los miembros del concejal han expresado...
Norma?
¿Perdón? Sí, sí.
Can you pause so we can hear the interpreter?
Sí. ¿Sí?
Norma, you can keep
Sí.
going.
Oh, gracias. Los miembros del concejal han expresado ellos mismos que como funcionarios recién elegidos necesitan más tiempo para aprender más sobre vivienda asequible y ante el desplazamiento. Y como madre de hogar y madre de 6 hijos, no se puede tomar una decisión a la ligera. No pueden tomar una decisión sin tener todo el conocimiento. Perdón. Sí. ¿Sí?
Anil, followed by Matthew.
Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak today. My name is Anil Babar with the California Apartment Association. We've had 2 years to study COPA. In that time, we've discovered that the 2 challenges that COPA aims to address, market timeline, which states that there isn't enough time to purchase properties, is false. We've seen that there is plenty of time built into the system for nonprofit to adequately compete against the market. The other issue about market transparency, we found that in last year alone, there were over 300 multifamily properties. That equals to thousands of units available for preservation if the money was available today. We've also discovered that the funding sources that a housing department has identified for acquiring these properties is unpredictable, and that the track record for COPA policies around the country is terrible. Only 2 cities in the last 40 years have adopted any kind of COPA policy. What that 2 years of study has determined is COPA is not the right policy for San Jose. And just because we've identified it as a possible solution to preservation doesn't mean we have to follow through if the policy is bad policy. San Jose simply cannot afford to spend any more time on a failed policy. We should be focusing on policies that add housing, and the housing department should be focused on new policies, new programs that actually add housing. We shouldn't drag our feet on a failed policy just because people are upset that the council has rejected it. Thank you.
Matthew, followed by Paul.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Matthew Reed, I'm the Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. We've been actively engaged in this process since the beginning, and I am here to strongly support Councilmember Ortiz's request that the item be deferred. The 3 Ps is a framework that has come out of significant discussion and research and engagement really within the region and now around the state and nationally. And it is a recognition that the majority of low, very low, and extremely low income households in San Jose live in the private market and are vulnerable to rent increases, which lead to displacement, and are also vulnerable to redevelopment of properties that are otherwise more affordable in the private market. We've talked a lot about increased rents and the need to create controls and restrictions that allow communities to be empowered to ensure that people aren't displaced. We've spoken a little bit less about the fact that our neighboring city of Mountain View has seen a demolition of 1,000 units over the last decade and has built slightly fewer than 1,000 units of new affordable housing. So the importance of preservation and preservation solutions is something that's not going to go away. This has been a difficult process, but it deserves additional discussion.
Paul, followed by Iris.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I agree with Councilman Ortiz's memo in spirit. However, there has not been a properly identifiable quantification of the impacts of redlining from 1939 till today. Until that happens, we really can't clearly articulate what it is that we're looking at and what it is that we're facing. Now, the Chicano community, I identify as people that can trace their lineages to the 1940 and 1950 census. Now, these are an identifiable group that has nothing to do with a lot of the people that are making their propositions to the council today, the nonprofits. See, because they can't trace their lineages back more than 2 generations, maybe 3. Mine is 6. And so what that means is that they're using and articulating, using an argument that they have real no history connected to because they don't identify as Chicanos. That is not how they identify. And so a Chicano is the one that has lived with the generational impacts of redlining, the exclusion of language from the schools, the deprivation of being able to buy properties. And that's why it's important to start discussing, if we're going to find funding streams and land, is to hold Willow Glen and Rose Garden accountable by taxing their equity, because the equity in those homes was built on the deprivation of property from the Mexicano, from the Chicano. This is critically important to center that within the context of this conversation. Once we have done that, then we can move on and really articulate what it is that needs to be done. But until that is done, we can't. Taxing a bond measure to tax every single redlined home in this city, and then we'll be getting somewhere.
Iris, followed by Luz Maria.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Iris Lee, the residential district 1. I attended the council meeting on March 27. I learned a lot from that meeting. 3 council members already gave the strong and clear points who are against the COBA. I'm impressed that Council Bata studied a lot of materials and have detailed information. So far, San Jose City has spent $5 million on this project and maybe spend more to 10 million, 20 million to 2024. And the COBA takes tax money from San Jose City because Measure E and not sold affordable and not sold affordability. The council member Foley, her point is COBA not increase the house number on the market. Therefore, not solve the problem, not solve the affordable problem either. Spend this huge money and effort on somewhere else, on affordable house and mobile house is really solution to make the San Jose City better. So the more time, we've already been there a couple of years, the more time, the more effort is wasted more. Please stop COBA right now and spend the time and the effort in the best solution. Affordable house and mobile homes is really solution and make our San Jose City better and better. Thank you.
Luz Maria, followed by Ms. Rain.
Hola, ¿me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan?
Yes.
Ok. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Luz María Bonce y vivo en el Distrito 4.
Le pedimos que apoyen el memorándum del concejal Peter Ortiz, que solicita un aplazamiento de Copa antes de la agenda del Consejo Municipal del 25 de abril. San José ha avanzado en muchas áreas, pero carece del ecosistema de preservación centrada en políticas y programas destinados a adquirir. Ajá.
Luz, can
Claro.
you,
¿Prosigo? Ah. Ok, está bien. Ok, San José ha avanzado en muchas áreas, pero carece de ecosistema de perseveración centrado en políticas y programas destinados a adquirir y rehabilitar fuentes de viviendas preexistentes.
So definitely San Jose lacks and has advances in many ways, but lacks of an ecosystem of participation of people centered on those policies and programs destined to acquire and rehabilitate funds or resources of homes that are pre-existing right now at this moment. Thank you.
Ms. Rain, followed by Bon.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Misraim Mendoza, and I'm a resident of District 7 here in San Jose, first generation immigrant. So I'm here to call in support of Council Members Peter Ortiz memo, requesting the deferral of COPA for April 25th council agenda. You know, I just want to say I have hope that you guys do the right decision. This is about community, you know, getting the opportunity, okay, to stay in San Jose. You know, I want to remind you that you got elected by community members, not by stakeholders, okay, and by special interest people, like the people that sell homes, okay? You owe this to the community. And you have to put community first, okay? I wish that you find it in your heart and know, like I said it before in the meeting, okay? It's not about the grapes, it's about the people. And that's what it's about. This is an opportunity for us. I want you guys to put yourselves in our positions and understand, you know, I wish my landlord would raise my rent $75. Okay, he raised it almost $150. That's why I needed to move from the place that I was at. Okay, now it's $85 a year. Okay, and I'm not complaining because I'm blessed, but I also, the same way I'm blessed, I want my community to be blessed. So please support the deferral of the Peter Ortiz memo. Okay, and thank you.
Bon, followed by Maina.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Liu. I represent Bon Bay Area Business and Housing Network. We disagree with the COPA. I hope everybody can reject COPA. COPA is an act that violates Americans' free market rules. It's unfair for the property sellers, buyers, as well as the renters. COPA gives the so-called nonprofit organizations unfair competitive advantage to snap up properties at a discount, which is unfair to the sellers. To prevent displacement, we should encourage home ownership and let more renters to buy their own home. With COPA, such buyers will face unprecedented competition from those nonprofit organizations. This is very unfair for ordinary home buyers. COPA involves lots of government bureaucracy and create a lot of overheads, which inevitably increase the cost of rental homes, causing rents to be higher, which is really bad for the tenants. To solve the housing crisis from the root, we need to build more houses. However, COPA not only create zero rental units, but it discourages development. Who wants to build new homes knowing that the city makes it so hard to sell? Who wants to invest on rental homes knowing that property values are purposely pressed down to give some special interest group unfair or the
Maina, followed by Bo.
Hi, this is Maina Young. I'm a single family house owner. My son is working in the Silicon Valley and a renter. And I think that COPA is very bad for renters. Please outright reject it. It has not shown any presentable, favorable data for the few years that that San Jose has been doing studying in other cities as well. And supposedly 40-something years of experience has not shown much promise. And in the meantime, you are really discouraging rental housing supply because people are watching you. If the sellers are going to sell the house, they will not rent it out. So you are really hurting the renters and reducing their options of finding housing. So and in the future, they will not invest in the housing because they won't want to go through the trouble of having to compete with some favor organizations and also make it very extensive process for them and go through bureaucracy and additional costs. So that will be a nightmare for future owners. So please reject COPA outright and do not delay it anymore. Thank you.
Bo, followed by Ken.
Hi, my name is Bo Liu, and I'm a housing provider in San Jose. I'm calling to strongly oppose about Councilman Ortiz's memo regarding to indefinitely defer COPA. Because COPA does not help tenants, but benefits a few so-called qualified nonprofit corporations at the cost of our taxpayers' money. It has been costed over millions of tax dollars and countless resources from all parties for over 2 years. The result is very clear. It costs a lot of tax money, but it does not increase one single unit of rental housing. COPA is not a solution for San Jose to help renters. COPA is not good use of tax money. COPA is a bad policy in the wrong direction. Please do not waste more money, more time, and more resources on COPA. Please use the limited resource for cost-effective solutions to address affordability and displacement. Please vote against COPA. Thank you.
Ken, followed by call-in user 1.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Now this is Ken. I think it's a bad policy, and because it's not creating any single one of the property for renting, and it's waste tax dollars, waste time, and waste all the efforts. It also hurts the housing transaction because it's already been 2 years, and it has involving so many processing, and it's tedious for both parties, for the owners or for the renters. And we need to, so I think we need to vote this policy down to save time and save money, tax dollars. Thank you.
Call in user 1, followed by Gina.
Hi, Martha O'Connell speaking as an individual. What I have been listening to for the last 40 minutes is exactly why I am opposed to the Ortiz memo. This should not be a discussion of COPA, folks. It is whether or not to delay the vote. That is what we should be talking about, but instead we're getting the same arguments that I've been hearing for the last 2 years. Enough already. The mobile home park designation started in 2015 and has been put off. Supposedly, we're getting it this year. That's 8 years. The opt-in attempt to change the rent control ordinance, 3.5 years of wasted time and staff resources. 3.5 years later, it was voted down. The excruciatingly long revision of the conversion ordinance of San Jose, once again, years of work. Once again, the thing was voted down. With due respect to the new council members, when I was appointed to the Housing Commission, I did my homework. I didn't ask that votes were put off so I could come up to speed. I spent my personal time coming up to speed. You guys that ran for office, you knew this was coming up. You had plenty of time before you took office to research it. And for the two new appointed council members, you also, or should have known this was on the radar. So please do not delay. We've had enough delays. Thank you very much.
Gina, followed by Nin.
Chair Cohen, council members, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. This is Gina Azari with the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. Just calling to ask you please to not delay this. I know that the memo is well-intentioned. I'm sure that that's the case, but this issue is wrong on so many levels. It's absolutely unnecessary. When asked if the nonprofits had any problems, the housing department purchasing properties, the housing department said no, because they hadn't yet had the funding in place to be able to purchase property. There is no issue, and there will never be an issue with these nonprofits purchasing rental residential housing. That's not a problem. But beyond that, this measure is disrespectful to all the thousands of property owners and housing providers, rental housing providers in our city. It's disrespectful because it puts the qualified nonprofits ahead of them in line. It's disrespectful because it layers another burden on top of these mom and pop housing providers that have taken burden after burden after burden in the last 5 or 6 years. It's disrespectful because it doesn't take into consideration that our property owners have true and honest and honorable and generous relationships with their tenants. And there are bad actors in every single industry. Yes, there are bad actors in every industry, including this industry, but this is not the solution. There are problems that are so significant in the city of San Jose. We have a housing supply crisis in the Bay Area. We have a homelessness crisis in San Jose, and this measure does nothing to help our disadvantaged, our homeless, our low income, our very low income. It does nothing. So please do not delay it. I appreciate the intention of this, but please allow us to go to a vote and forever end COPA on April 25th. Thank you.
Nin, followed by Mona.
Hello. So I'm a registered voter from the District 4, and I also participated in the meeting on March 27th. So I'm a first generation of immigrant. I'm also a homeowner and has been living in Silicon Valley for over 20 years. I'm calling to strongly oppose the COPA as I did last time, and also strongly oppose indefinitely defer COPA. COPA is wasting San Jose's money and resource. We are the taxpayers, and I don't want to see this going on anymore. So stop with defer COPA and stop wasting San Jose's money and resource. Spend our money in something more meaningful, more useful, and can directly benefit the residents. And do not put this money to benefit those so-called nonprofit organization, which has special interest and try to manipulate the housing market. So this is my opinion, and I want my representative from District 4 to hear my opinion. Thank you.
Mona, followed by Sandra.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Can you hear
Can
me?
people hear me? Hello?
Move on to the next person.
Gonna move on to
Hello?
Sandra.
Mona, you couldn't hear us, so put your hand back up. We're gonna move on to the next person.
Hi, my name is Sandra Weber. I am a realtor. I've attended COPA meetings as well as housing provider meetings, trying to hear different perspectives. And COPA as well as indecision will cause more displacement, not less, as fear of increased restrictions and bureaucracy will drive mom and pop housing providers to sell properties, causing more stress and uncertainty for renters. The council members at the CEDC level obviously studied. Batra himself, he apologized for his eyes being red. He was up very late. I heard great questions from both he and Councilmember Foley, and they asked poignant questions that exposed a lot of flaws in COPA. And so much so that now we're getting a request to defer indefinitely because there's so many flaws with COPA. When you actually look at it, until additional housing stock is added, vouchers will help the most people in a timely manner. That's what we really need. There's so many people who need help. Let's look at the best way to help the most people instead of a few with the QNPs. And so I ask, just respectfully, move COPA to a full council vote on April 25th. Thank you.
Mona, followed by Victor.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Mona. I am calling strongly oppose COPA and also oppose the idea of put it indefinitely. COPA, we are trying to do the study for like last several years, and money already spent $5 million, and there's more, it'll be $20 million more in 2024 if we continue this path. So I did a simple math, $1 million, if we give a $400 for low or extremely low income household, $400 a month, and then for $1 million, there will be a 2,500 people families can get help. 5 million, that's a 12,500 household. For 20 millions, you count it, that's about 60,000 family can get help. So please stop wasting the money and vote down to COPA and helping people really deserve and not wasting money for all these bureaucracies. Thank you.
Victor, followed by Jennifer.
Yes, hi, dear council members. My name is Victor in District 8.
I'm calling to urge all the council members to reject Mr. Cortez's proposal to defer the proposal and bring this POA to the full council meeting on April 25th. We've been through 2 years of testimonials, and we hear so many reasonings that COPA is a bad policy, it's not good for the renter, it's not good for the landlord either, and it's only beneficial a few so-called non-profit organizations, which is a special interest group, and they just disguised under the name of non-profit. So I urge all the council members to vote no on this proposal and move forward and to defeat COPA. Let's just concentrate on effort and resource to something more useful, try to solve the housing policy. Thank you.
Jennifer, followed by Emily.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Parra, and I am a community organizer with Amigos de Guadalupe, and I'm here just to urge to support the council member Peter Ortiz's memo requesting a deferral of COPA ahead of the April 25th City Council agenda. So studies have pointed out that most immediate driving force behind displacement is not just the lack of new construction, which is a very high cost of new construction, but rather the process where unsubsidized units that were once affordable became unaffordable due to rent increases. Between 2012 and 2017, the Bay Area actually lost 32,000 units of affordable housing a year in this manner. In order for anti-displacement strategies to truly flourish, intentional steps must be taken to ensure that we as a city are building out a preservation infrastructure. In the middle of a historic housing shortage and homelessness crisis, San Jose cannot ignore the call to explore the steps necessary to build a robust prevention strategy for our most impacted communities. We urge you to support Council Member Peter Ortiz's memo. As a community member, I work with families on a day-to-day basis, and I'm just seeing the effects of this displacement. And now, besides, I urge you to not just think about the cost of this, but just the children that are being displaced, the families that are being displaced. It's not a matter of approving something or not. It's about your humanity. And you guys, like other people have said before, you guys have been voted in by our community members. Now, please do right by them. Thank you.
Emily, followed by Doug. Emily?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Emily. I'm in District 1. I think COPA is a bad and unfair policy. You need to think about it in long run. It will damage the economy and the community. And it just wastes our money and resource. Why don't you use this money to build more affordable home? History told us more government interfere only create more problems. It is bad for seller, buyer, and renter. It only benefits those so-called non-for-profit organizations. Please just end the COPA, please. Thank you.
Doug, followed by William. Doug?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, council members. I'm a resident of District 10 and have been attending the COPA meetings for over 10 years, or 2 years, sorry. I strongly urge you to vote no on the memorandum from Councilmember Ortiz to postpone the vote on COPA. COPA is not the right policy to protect displacement. There are other more effective and cost-efficient ways to protect tenants from displacement, including vouchers that can help thousands of tenants, not just a select few. There's already a very successful process for these corporate nonprofits to purchase multi-residential properties that has been in place for over 10 years. As I speak to you right now, there are 67 multi-unit properties available in San Jose for these corporate nonprofits to purchase through the multiple listing service. Many of these are located in areas COPA has identified as undergoing displacement. These properties have been on the market for over 75 days. In the past 5 years, there have been over 1,000 sales of multi-unit properties through our multiple use listing service. In the past 5 years, there have also been over 300 multi-unit properties listed for sale, which did not sell. These listings were available for sale on average for over 70 days. These corporate nonprofits had every opportunity to purchase these properties, which they didn't. Many of these properties are also located in the areas COPA has identified as areas undergoing displacement. There are ample opportunities for corporate nonprofits, investors, and end users to purchase residential and commercial multi-unit properties in the city of San Jose. There is no need to implement a new, unnecessary citywide COPA program that will burden San Jose property owners and cost the city millions of dollars. I urge you to bring COPA to City Council for vote on April 25th. Thank you.
William, followed by Jenny. William?
Good afternoon. Hope everybody can hear me. My name is William Shea. I'm the president of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. I respectfully request that you vote against postponing the final decision on COPA. 2.5 years, $1 million in taxpayer money, and tremendous amounts of time and energy have been spent on both sides of this issue. The market interference created by COPA and property rights abridged by COPA are absolutely unnecessary. The corporate housing nonprofits have acknowledged they've never encountered a problem purchasing residential property because to this point, their problem is simple. They simply don't have the funding. If we truly want to preserve affordable rental housing, utilizing housing vouchers is the only viable option. The $1 million that was spent could have helped thousands of families that have been displaced or are about to be displaced. How many children could have been helped by that $1 million? Do right by our communities. Stop giving the community false hope and put the money to better use. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Jenny, followed by Dimitri.
Hello. Hello. Hi, my name is Jenny Zhao. I'm a resident in District 1. I'm speaking on behalf of Bond, a grassroots organization that represents the mom and pop housing providers in San Jose. I'm calling to express our strong opposition and deep frustration about Councilmember Ortiz's memo. We have spent nearly 2.5 years and over $1 million in staff's time, cost, and resources on this one. It's already too much time and resources wasted. We all know that we don't have unlimited time and resource. The result is loud and clear. COPA is a bad policy to a non-existing problem. CEDC rejected COPA on March the 27th. It's time for our entire city leader to have the chance to reject COPA and move forward. Mom and pop housing providers provides more than 70% of the naturally affordable housing in San Jose. Please stop adding more burdens to us. The best way of preserving is to preserve mom and pop housing providers. We urge our city leaders to use our limited resources, fundings, and staff hours to explore cost-effective solutions to address displacement issue and housing affordability. COPA is definitely not one of them. Please reject Councilmember Ortiz's memo. Thank you very much.
Dimitri, followed by LA.
Hello, my name is Dmitry Krugliak. I'm a realtor, a property rights advocate, and resident of District 3. My message will be short and sweet. Stop wasting time and money on COPA and start working on actual solutions to the housing questions. The COPA policy failed everywhere it was tried. We don't need to keep this zombie coming back. Bring it to the council vote to have it killed there. And we will also see who wants to support this terrible policy. That's it. Bring it for the council vote and kill it there. Thank you.
LA followed by Ryan.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name's LA. I'm a San Jose native pretty much, and honestly, it's really hard for me to understand where people are coming from that are opposed to something that it's not even going to be the only solution to solving this emergency. I mean, I don't understand how the people making decisions can sleep at night when we are walking past people left and right without access to a shower, access to basic human dignity and rights, and we have the audacity to be here just having a conversation around the humans that are out here on the streets that are struggling, and families, hardworking families that hold this videos and all over the Bay Area that are working and have to really come out here and advocate to be treated as up to par with the rest of the other people inhabiting, this realm. And so I just think that we really need to really look at this with a humanistic lens and stop using language, misinformation, trying to get away from actually addressing this problem. It's not the only solution. There's more to come in addition to this. And so, this is one step in the right direction. And I really urge you guys to make the right decision and listen to the people who are advocating for this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ryan followed by Stephanie.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ryan. I'm a local realtor. I'm asking you guys to please do not delay this vote. I ask that you oppose Councilmember Ortiz's memo to indefinitely defer COPA. COPA must be brought to a vote and defeated on April 25th. You have already spent over 2 years and over $1 million of taxpayer dollars on COPA. It's very frustrating. This COPA issue is wrong on many levels. Please, I ask you guys to stop squandering taxpayer dollars. I just don't understand why you don't provide vouchers for the folks that need them. This would be a far better use of taxpayer dollars. And you could provide immediate relief, now. There really is no issue and will never be an issue for these nonprofits to purchase, this type of housing that they're going after. I just don't understand why these nonprofits are not going after the properties that are available on the open market now. I mean, they're available now. They've been available in the past. It's very frustrating. COPA is disrespectful by putting these nonprofits above the mom and pop housing providers. I don't understand why you guys as a city council would support that. So I'm asking that you please bring COPA to a vote and defeat it on April 25th. Thank you.
Stephanie followed by Kelly.
Good afternoon. I am Stephanie Legsay, a resident of District 6 in San Jose. I respectfully ask that you oppose the memo that would indefinitely postpone COPA. There have been already 2.5 years dedicated to the research and tweaking of COPA, yet it remains full of flaws. The reason for this is that it is not a good program. No amount of time is going to change that. It is time to recognize it, move on, and focus on new ways to tackle the problem of displacement in the city of San Jose. COPA is not a necessary means for nonprofits to purchase properties. Please oppose the memo to postpone and bring COPA to a vote on April 25th. Thank you very much.
Kelly followed by Mary Zhang.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Hunt and I'm a resident, District 10. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to urge you to oppose the postponement indefinitely of the vote for COPA. I'm a longtime resident and real estate professional and intimately familiar with the housing market. Nonprofits have not been excluded from seeing or purchasing multi-units on the open market. There is factual information available to the council and the public that verifies listings and sales for these properties. These are available, there are available multi-unit properties currently on the market for them to purchase, yet these nonprofits are still unsuccessful in doing so. Mom and pop housing providers should not be forced to sell to a nonprofit that is already incapable of successfully purchasing multi-unit housing already on the open market. I attended the meeting on March 27th, and it was very disturbing to me and sad in particular to hear the tenants emotionally pleading for COPA, but using reasons that are not actually going to transpire or help them. They are being misled. There is no argument that we need more affordable housing. We have a dire shortage of residential and multi-unit housing, but this measure will not create new or more affordable homes for these renters. There are other means which were mentioned here as far as vouchers and things like that. I just think we have a lot more options available that will be way more successful and affordable for these tenants. Please do not indefinitely postpone this matter and allow the full council to vote on COPA on April 25th. Thank you.
Mary, followed by Neil.
Hi, I'm vote to against the COPA. It's a bad policy. Why the special nonprofit organization, they have a priority to buy the, why you guys cannot buy the housing in the fair market price? You can buy, but how come you have a priority over other people? That's not fair. Okay, that's really bad policy. I against the COPA. Done.
Neil? Neil?
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Neil Collins, and I'm the CEO of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. I'm here to ask that you do not support the memo by Councilmember Ortiz to defer this indefinitely. The narrative that this will help displacement is simply not accurate. We can provide more support to our tenants immediately through an emergency voucher system that provides rental relief directly to those tenants who are at risk of being displaced. That can be done today. COPA is not needed. COPA will never create more affordable housing or lower rents. It takes too long, helps too few, and costs too much. This will never change. Deferring a decision on COPA will not change the fact that this is simply a bad policy. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, thank you. I don't see any hands up yet from my committee colleagues. I'm hoping to hear from them on what their views are on how to proceed moving forward. This topic's been lingering for a while, but it's not going to go away, in my opinion, in the sense that preservation is going to be important for us as a city as part of our housing strategy, and it's incumbent upon us to discuss all potential options for preservation. In my opinion, the real question is, what are the right preservation strategies, and what are the options that we should be discussing, and how do we look at alternatives if COPA we don't believe COPA is the right strategy for this time. I understand the recommendation from Councilmember Ortiz, because the idea of keeping preservation on the table, keeping COPA on the table, always as a potential option once we see how the market is playing out with other strategies, I think is important. But it's also important for us to have a conversation, I think, as a council about what are the overall things we should do as alternatives if we're not going to move forward at this time with a COPA strategy. So anyway, I'm interested in hearing the rest. Now the hands have popped up, so I'll let Councilmember Jimenez go first.
I'll just first say that I want to thank the community members both online and here, as well as folks that are associated with the real estate industry, calling in, sharing your perspective. I've had meetings with many of the advocates on this, I think maybe on one or two occasions. I left some of those meetings with additional questions, being a realtor myself and sort of understanding the industry, not as well as my colleague Pam Foley up here. But I also had I hadn't had a meeting with the realtors actually. And some of those meetings were due to take place in the next few weeks. I did, however, have some conversations with some of the folks that actually called in at some events where they pull us aside as elected officials and we start having conversations about some of this stuff. And some of the answers to some of the questions I was asking weren't very clear either. And so I have been in this space in which I was still trying to put together my thoughts as to whether this policy was going to have the impact that I think a lot of people hope it's going to have, and also evaluating whether folks in the real estate industry are saying it's going to, the detrimental impact is going to be as large as they say it's going to have. And so trying to balance that and trying to figure that out is somewhere where I still am today. And so that's why I'm inclined to support the memo by Councilmember Ortiz to defer it indefinitely. Although the word indefinitely, I'd be curious if Councilmember Ortiz, since you're up here, what are you thinking because when I read indefinitely, it seems like we're sending it away somewhere and it's just going to sit on a shelf and maybe other conversations will take place. But I'm hoping that you can enlighten me a little bit as to what you're thinking.
Very similar to how you characterized it, putting it on the shelf at this point, unless in the future council wants to bring it back. But my whole reason for this is to make sure that we can continue to have preservation conversations as a council, as a city, and not rush to take any single member of that toolkit off the conversation table.
Okay. And then my understanding as well is that so thank you for that, is even if it comes before us, say the 25th or whatever it may be, and if it does in fact get voted down or it doesn't pass or there's modifications, that I also understand that it can be revived to a certain extent. I mean, it's not sort of the death knell and it doesn't go away forever. And so one of the things that comes to mind as I hear some of the comments from some of the folks in the real estate industry is that even if we were to bring it before a vote and we were to vote it down or whatever would happen, it doesn't mean that another council member in the future can't resubmit it for consideration to this body. And so I think the indefinite sort of postponement, if you will, I think there's something to be said about what we do with some of the resources attached to some of this work, which I think is an important conversation. But I also think that it does what some of the folks in the industry want, is for it not to take effect today, right now. I guess in their point, it may be ever. But I think it does presently, seems to me, to do what everyone wants it to do if we actually approve this memo by Councilmember Ortiz. I didn't watch the CED meeting. I heard it was like 10 hours long. And this chamber was full. And so I certainly look forward to hearing from some of the colleagues that are up here that are also in the Community and Economic Development Committee, hopefully enlighten me with some of what you heard and what you think needs to happen. But I'll move approval of the Ortiz memo. And I hope we get a second just for the sake of discussion, and we can go a different way, I guess, if we see that's appropriate. Thank you.
Well, I was going to hold off on a second until I heard from other colleagues about their views. So let's hold off. We can always bring back a motion, but let me hear from Councilmember Kamei.
Thank you so much.
Vice Mayor Kamei, sorry.
Thank you so much. I too would like to thank all of the speakers on both sides. I do understand that this has been an issue for over 2 years. And I thank my colleague, Councilmember Ortiz, for wanting to allow for more time. I do, however, believe that anti-displacement strategies are needed. We definitely need to be able to do something about that. I also believe that preservation is important, and we need to create the infrastructure necessary to be able to have alternatives. I don't know that COPA is the right alternative. I think we should have multiple avenues to be able to deal with anti-displacement. I really think that Sandy, who spoke earlier from the South Bay Community Land Trust, I think that that has started a group that actually is doing something. So I think that that is perhaps an avenue, but it does not need to be the only avenue. There are other avenues to provide for preservation. I think that after over 2 years, I think that the council needs to have that discussion, you know, whichever way it goes, because I think that waiting for a longer period of time does not help. And I really think that we need to look at what are the alternatives and what is it that can be done. And I hope that housing does bring us, you know, a robust way of looking at solving some of these problems. I think that the South Bay Community Land Trust has a way of looking at things in terms of what could be possible, right? And that, you know, that is an area that I think does not stop us, you know, whichever way things go. But I do think that we need to start providing for action and make decisions.
All right, Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I want to thank the people in the audience who are here present in person and those who called in online. I also want to thank Councilmember Ortiz for his memo, although I don't agree with postponing it indefinitely. As the chair of the Community Economic Development Committee, and many of you who are called in or are here in person know how long that meeting ran and how many people were here to listen to the debate and actually offer input. On that particular committee, I was the only veteran. All the others were new, but they were clearly up to speed on what the issue is. The memo does not say go back to staff and investigate it a little more. It says, and Councilmember Ortiz clarified Councilmember Jimenez's question, which was what does that mean? And Councilmember Ortiz said it means to put it on the shelf. That means staff is not spending any more time investigating it. I've investigated this issue for 2.5 years from all angles, and I personally feel very equipped to make a decision. Council members, when you're new or experienced, we have an obligation to research the issue and to listen to both sides, all sides, which I have done. Anytime someone calls me and wants to talk to me about any issue, I always have an open door and always say yes to taking that meeting. So if anyone is in this meeting, in this room, who'd like to meet with me and discuss their point of view, please let me know and we'll set that up through my scheduler, Shirley, because it is important that I hear both sides. You've also know that I am a realtor. That was my business. I'm no longer in that business. That business closed in early January, but I don't really sell property. I did real estate loans. I help people buy property, and haven't done that actively since I've been on the council. But I do know the issue, that's for sure. And I have a lot of questions about COPA and concerns about the implementation. And ultimately, I have concerns about the staff time that staff spent 2.5 years investigating. And I've heard numbers that they've spent $1 million to $1.5 million investigating. That's a lot of money to come up with a proposal that isn't going through or may not go through. Clearly, CED, the committee, they moved to reject the staff recommendation. It is time for the full council to have this discussion in an open session, and I expect we'll have a lot of people in audience too to offer their opinion on one side of the issue or another, and then the council will make a decision based on the input that they receive and the studies that they do in investigating with the people who approach them and come to them and talk to them about this issue. So I think it's really critical that we move forward with this. As a result, I'm going to move that we approve the council agenda for the 25th except removing the memo from the agenda. So in other words, I'm excluding the Ortiz agenda from the memo, from the agenda.
I would second that.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank everybody who came out today. There's been a lot of passion on this important topic on both sides of this issue for a long time, and I appreciate hearing from people who are expressing the importance of our city's work and preservation, as well as folks who do important work in the real estate industry and their perspective. You know, I've been saying this, and I've said it privately in a lot of meetings I've had with people on both sides of this issue. I have not been convinced that COPA will move the needle significantly, but I also am significantly unconvinced that COPA will have the negative ramification on the real estate industry that they claim it will. So there's still questions in my mind out there about the efficacy of this particular approach. But you know, some of the scare tactics have been a little bit also, I think, overly generalized. Having said that, you know, I agree with Councilmember Jimenez's point and on Councilmember Ortiz's point that this is somewhat of an academic question about shelving or now or having the conversation on the 25th. To me, the value of having the conversation on the 25th is for us to talk about how we look at the resources that have been earmarked for spending on COPA strategies and direct staff at that time through the budget process to make recommendations on how we immediately begin using some of that money to begin to focus on anti-displacement or increase our anti-displacement efforts, and what other ways we can invest that money in preservation strategies. And in theory, you know, continuing to have reports every year or two about how are these anti-displacement strategies working, where are we still falling short, what parts of the city still need more attention, how do we now focus other resources in that area, and what other strategies at this point may be, you know, may need to be tried because some of the strategies aren't yet being fully successful. Nothing ever is permanently off the table anyway when council takes a vote. There's still a lot of, the jury's still out in my mind about how well COPA is working in the places where it's been implemented, and you know, in a couple of years from now, we might learn more about some of the benefits. We also might learn about how to focus that effort in certain parts of the city where we have more prevalence of current issues with gentrification and displacement, rather than some broader brush approaches. So I think that there's still room to have conversations about strategies, but have a conversation at the end of this month on how we focus some of our current resources that have been set aside on immediate impact for the residents who are at risk of displacement, because that should be our key focus. I think that, as I've been saying all along, getting our you know, used to be that for every one person that becomes unhoused in the city, we have about 3 people falling into homelessness. We're down to about 1.6. We know we're not going to solve our problem until we're down below 1. We need to put resources as much as possible into that problem as quickly as possible. We need to be preventing displacement as quickly as possible in as large numbers as possible. And so I know that I'm committed, and I hope that the majority of the council is committed to figuring out how we can invest in that most effectively. So that's my view on the topic. We do have a motion and a second to approve the agenda on the 25th, so we'll move ahead with a vote on that unless there's any other comments from colleagues. All right, the motion carries 3-1 with Councilmember Jimenez opposed. We will now move on to our consent agenda on which has 6 items on consent. We'll go to public comment first on consent.
Blair?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. That was over an hour-long public comment time. Thank you. I hope we all were able to learn something from the process. That was the community process. Thank you. I wanted to offer about the updates to the community CED committee work plan coming up. You're going to be talking about Wayfair issues that I'm assuming is about the downtown kiosk issues. And I have concerns about the kiosk issues naturally, and its work with tech, surveillance tech and data collection. I hope you can be open and clear about that. Interestingly, I think it's a bit more of an interesting program than, say, putting downtown billboards up, high up, that are going to be doing the same thing as the downtown kiosk. They're going to be surveilling people, they're going to be collecting their data, but at least the kiosks are interactive. And I think that's a bit more of interest to ourselves and provides a bit more service than the billboards do. But I mean, it's going to suck up a lot of data from people. It's going to be totally taking over their privacy issues. I think it's a really uncomfortable technology. I don't think it's really worth it. You're going to talk about its wonders, but I just hope we can have the conversation to talk about its downside too. About your PISPIS committee planning, also, you're going to talk about police issues, how police are acting and working in June. That should be enough time to get set up what's been going on with the SJPOA stuff, where exactly our San Jose police officers may be involved in fentanyl distribution. And I hope we're learning how to better openly more talk about that subject better and what exactly police were doing in our local neighborhoods with the fentanyl issues. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, is there a motion on the consent calendar?
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, vote. Consent calendar is adopted 4-0. Now we're on to open forum.
Paul Soto.
Yes, thank you for the meeting. When you're doing a math problem and you're trying to get at the answer, if there's some kind of variable in the equation that is wrong, or the order of operations is reversed, you'll never arrive at the answer. Never. Until the equation is set properly, you don't arrive at an answer. It's just keep on chasing and changing the variable. And, this is an existential crisis. The people that have suffered under the redlining policies and the generational impacts of that has to be squarely centered. And it has not been properly done. And what you were saying to that generation of people, these are Chicanos, these are the ones that experience all that Fiestas de las Rosas, the ones that the discrimination in the schools, all of these oppressions. And it was because of that community that we have installed now the 10 districts as a result of Confederación de la Raza Unida's work. And so we have done what we could. Now it's incumbent upon you to do what it is that you can using the 10 districts that we gave you to do it with. And my community is just asking for that. We're asking that you not pass up this opportunity to rightly and justly articulate what has happened to my community. This is a very clear, distinct group in the city of San Jose that has not been contextualized within these conversations. And that is just like a blatant, complete disregard for this community. And the power that you exercise from those seats is extracted from that community.
Blair Beekman.
All right, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the words of Councilperson Cohen today. I think he offered some interesting ideas. Thank you for today. The concepts of mixed income can be helpful concepts for all sides in housing issues that were talked about at City Council yesterday. Good luck in how to start better considering how the ideas of cooperation and community and a shared future are basically the ideas of mixed income. Good luck how we can talk about these more before they are mandated to us in 2029 by the state of California. I hope we can start talking about them now. And to talk about digital equity from yesterday also. A reminder of, I hope I can talk more about civil rights and civil protection ideas that we need to learn to more openly talk about as part of the process of why we have good accountable practices and what accountable practices can offer the future of digital equity and bridging the digital divide. And it's those things I think I figured out yesterday that help address racial equity really well. If we learn to talk about civil rights and civil protections in our bridging the digital divide issues, and learning to include that answers those sort of questions that Paul's asking about often. How do we talk about racial equity? Is it in civil rights and civil protection terms? And where is that? And can that be an open conversation? We can't fear that conversation. That's our best stuff. And that's our ideas of sustainability, basically. What we do is positive sustainability. And I hope we can have those conversations on the East Side. And it's our good, interesting things for our future, I think, that how to bridge the digital divide. It's really important stuff. So thanks for the meeting, and good luck to the community effort. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.